So this panel is being conducted in collaboration with Girls Go Boom, Parts of Culture, Gender Spectrum and the City of Ghent. And we're filming in Kunsthal. In amongst this artwork, which is Syllabus by Jessie Jones. And the theme of the panel is art and activism. And the theme developed from the action that we did for International Women's Day, where we projected different artworks and animations onto buildings in the city centre of Ghent. And that got us thinking about how we explore art and activism, how art can critique social and political issues, and to what extent it can implement change. And so that's what I kind of want to talk about today. So if we could get you to start, Wieneke, by introducing yourself and your work.
Okay. Hello, everybody. We see each other for the first time, so that's quite exciting, I think. I'm Wieneke. I call myself a textile artist, and I make performances where I try to make connection with the nature, with the environment, and especially with the dune landscape, which I always went on holiday to a specific dune landscape in Schorl that is close to, a little bit above Amsterdam, so it's close to the sea. And there you can find lovely colors like purple, different colors of the moss, grass. There's a lot of relief through the landscape, and I wanted to create a textile landscape out of it. And I also made a work when I was in Germany for an exchange, and I wanted to make an ode for the moss. And I wanted to make noise for the moss, and I made a sculpture where what I could put on myself. And when I was moving, the plastic forms were clinging towards each other, and they were like making this noise, what you sometimes hear if you're in a garden where you have bamboo hanging in a garden. You hear like cling, 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 cling. It's like a very lovely small sound, and I made this sound for the moss, and by doing that I try to connect with the environment where I perform, and the bigger picture or the bigger idea behind it is to make people aware, and also myself, that we are now kind of in a switching moment in the time, that for a long time we were like rulers over the landscape and the nature and also other human beings. And now I want to go low and change our perspective from up to down, and I call that the moss perspective. In the art history you call it frog perspective, so you look from down to up instead of from up to down, and I make work around that to try to connect with the environment. And at the moment I'm already dying with natural material I find in nature, and also what you can buy in powder form, but it's all natural, and I dye fabrics, and with the colors I create out of the material from the nature, I make a dune landscape. And I always try to see if I can make the landscapes are like a painting, so they have a composition and they are inspired on the dunes, but I also try to find a way that I can wear them and can get the objects into actions. So, yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool. Renke, are you happy enough to go next?
Yeah,
to introduce yourself, you can give us your pronouns and tell us about your work.
So I'm Rienke. My pronouns are she and her. I do work for Girls Go Boom. I'm a graphic designer, illustrator. I made some zines also for the International Women's Day. So I work with Girls Go Boom, and I make stuff like that, and make sure that the things we do with Girls Go Boom get some attention in the media, and it looks pretty, and and all. The thing that interests me the most is stories and image and connected with texts and words and how words define their own meaning and stuff like that, and how words can be wrongly pronounced and wrongly put the wrong meaning on it. Also, I think there is a lot of humor in that. So humor is also a big part of the thing that I find interesting in the stuff that I see or the world around me, and I do that. I would love to make a graphic novel about that, but I don't know yet how to make that. It's too abstract in my head, so I wanted to make it more. Easily to show it to the other people. So but at the moment I making stuff for Girls Go Boom and make it pretty.
And we very much appreciate it. And I think what you say about definitions of words and the content of things is really important as well, and maybe something we'll come back to later.
Once at school I made like a work where I made a music piece out of dialogue that I had with a friend. I put words into a new, alphabet. But every word was like a sound or a note, and when I put those words together, it was a accord. So I made with a music box where you can put your own paper in it. I made music sheets from the text that I had and made a full album of dialogue that I had from a friend, as like the meaning of words can be just sounds but can have another meaning if you put it in another dimension. And it was very poetically, it sounded very poetically, and so that's what I like to do and find interesting.
Amazing. I'd love to see that.
Nice.
And Krishna,
Yes.
you're up next, I guess, to introduce yourself.
So my name is Krasna or Michal. My pronouns are they and she, and out of drag they are they and them. I'm a visual artist, a drag performer, and an illustrator, and my work, it focuses on a critical point of view on the gender binary and the assigned gender roles that they have. I would say drag is a political act in itself. When you go on stage and you express what you want to express, and you probably get applauded for that, that's already great. But if you try to convey a message, I think it can give like a better performance, in my opinion. For me, I put a lot of my Russian background in my performances, and I celebrate that I'm actually like a queer, transgender Russian person. So what I'm doing in my performance is basically I go on stage and I show to the world, this is me and I am taking up this space. And that's how I'm hopefully showing to other queer people that you can take up space as well, and that there is space for you, even if you're Russian and queer, Russian and transgender. And in general, I would say that drag is a good way to amplify your voice. If you put on this, people are going to listen to you. So that's kind of what I'm about.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
So great. Thank you so much. And thank you all for being here as well. So I suppose that what we've heard from each of you is that in some way your work is political or is a critique on something or other. Would you all label yourselves as activists? Don't know who wants to go. Do you want to go first, Krishna?
I think I would, just because, like I said before, it is already a political act, and in my performances, I do try to convey a message. So I do think I would blame myself an activist, but I haven't been calling myself that for a long time. But as soon as I started my performances with Krasna, I just knew. That's kind of my answer.
No, then it came to you. Then you felt like you were, I guess, sort of living it as.
Yeah, I guess I was doing something good, and that it just feels good. So I know that I can claim that label because it is a very loaded label. Also, I think and you get a lot of expectations from it. So yeah.
Yeah, I suppose, do you think that's why some people don't really like to take on the label, because there are then expectations that are raised by...
Yeah, I think people are also insecure, as I was very, and they always compare themselves to other people. So I think you can compare your work to another person's work or your activism. And if you think that you're not doing it on a certain level that you should be doing it, you're afraid to call yourself that.
Yeah.
But it's just as valid.
Yeah, I agree with you. Does anybody else have a comment on that? Maybe whether you don't like to use this label, or you do like to use this label, or the reasons why you might like to or not?
I consider myself an activist, but it doesn't reflect it in my work. I think as a person, I am an activist. I want to stand up and tell two things that I think that aren't right in this community. That's why I also work with Girls Go Boom and put my energy in things like that. But my work, I don't think so. But yeah.
What about with your zines? Because I suppose zines have the background in kind of activist circles and by being used by...
Yeah, I would say I used it to show off my work, but the content of my work is not the most. You have those typical anarchists zines about, and it's always very activistic. But as I said, I really like humor.
Yeah.
And I think that's humor is always very hard to find in those things, because I think for me those scenes are very serious, and they take themselves very serious to really show the message and so. But I don't find that very interesting to use it in my work. I think it's interesting to read, but I would never make stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, so are you saying that your zines take a more humorous approach? Yeah. Which I guess can also be, for me, a kind of activism in itself, just in terms of, you're distracting us from the everyday horrors of a pandemic or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But I also appreciate that you're saying you have to be careful when you're putting across messages about things that are very important to people and that people are living, I suppose.
Yeah, and also like when you're like activism and printed media has a big history about putting ideas and spreading ideas and stuff like that. And I don't want to be propaganda, and I don't want to be part of that, because you only have a poster, just a blank canvas or a canvas, and you have to put your message over there. It's always gonna be, and it's also have to catch the eye of the person who walks by. So it's gonna be a snapshot of what your idea is. It wouldn't tell the whole picture of it. Yeah. So I think that's very dangerous, and I think a lot of activists, artists, show a lot of one-sidedness of the perspective of the problem of the thing that they want to fight against. And I have it very hard with that. But yeah, if you want to do it right, it's very hard. And I think it's not my place. It's not my thing to do, because I don't have the feeling with that kind of art.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really important point as well. And Wieneke, do you...
Yeah, I find it a very interesting question, because I thought of myself as an environment activist or ecological environmentalist, but then my environment says, no, you're not. So I'm, I don't know, for example, when I was in Germany, I went for the Extinction Rebellion in Berlin. It was a big thing in October last year. And then that was so activistic that the police took you away and you were shouting and singing, and I quite liked it, but I was also like, I don't know. This is also a part of environmental activism that I sometimes join, but if I look to my art and what I make is much more personal and much more intimate, because I'm speaking about how to build up a relationship with nature, and that's not by shouting towards the tree like "Hello, hello, let's have contact." No, so I'm trying to find contact with nature, but I think that is by spending a lot of time in it. So, and to start to getting know the names of the plants and to try to get colors out of it. And it's like, it is very small things, but I think it's also activistic because I'm really having a message and I really have an opinion about it. And I also say what I think about it. And with this, like, for example, Ode to the Moss, yeah, it was not shouting like we have to embrace the moss or we have to think more about this plant. No, I think it's, if you want change and more people than only myself, then it must be from inside, and start to grow in yourself, and then people are sharing the love. But it's not by shouting towards something and then the message is not taking it. So I think I'm an activist, but I have my doubts in how sometimes activists do it. That it sometimes maybe is getting the wrong answer, like that someone is shouting back. When I was in Germany, you have like this kind of neo-Nazi group, and you have the very green ones, and they're and also very for what we are now here, they are also more in that scene, and they are shouting against each other. But they don't understand each other. There's no common ground. So I think there must be another way to find a conversation with each other.
Yeah, for sure. That's so interesting. And I think, it's so easy to get into those conversations. Then you begin to converse with groups of people who maybe have really problematic ideology. And then what's that kind of saying if it's just a sort of back and forth shouting position? So would you say in that respect that your art is trying to create some sort of affectual change, like an emotional change in people that then gets them thinking?
Like I see it like you have like you can like divide the body into three parts, like what I think, that you have the head, the heart, and the belly. And I'm more into the belly one because that's really about earthing, like aarden, to really ground and to really get connection with the earth you're standing on. And sometimes emotional can also just very short and very intense relationships or loves, or I think it's more about the long durational change in people. So emotional, more belly.
Well, in English we would really say like a gut reaction. It's that emotional reaction that you feel when you see something for the first time, and that can be more powerful than the heart or the head. And I think that's so interesting. So thank you for that. And guys, feel free to like jump in on each other at any time. Okay. I know it's difficult though. I think I was thinking about what you said, Rinke, about sometimes when activists or artists are trying to convey a particular kind of message or make a critique on something, and maybe their art could be taken out of context, or the way that it's marketed or distributed could impact the message. Have any of you had any problems with any of that in the past, or anything to say about that?
Do you mean like a poster, what you saw, or what do you mean?
Yeah, I suppose even, so the way, for instance, say you have an exhibition on or something, or you have a zine, or you do a performance, Krishna, then the way that maybe it's advertised or marketed or used in a particular way. And then again, with social media these days, like I suppose it all the more easily can be taken out of context and used for something.
I mean, I think drag has been taken out of context very easily. People think it's men dressing up as women or the other way around, where it's really just breaking free from the gender norms, kind of. But for like a political thing, I think the community understands what we do, and I I guess they support it as well. So I don't think they take that out of context.
Yeah.
Do you think that like shows like RuPaul's Drag Race show a wrong perspective on drag or so, or on people doing drag?
Oh,
Because
yeah. I think RuPaul just shows a wrong perspective on
Yeah.
drag in the way that it's always binary. It's until recent that they've had trans people on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But before that, it was always cis men, and they always had to dress a certain way. Their drag had to be a certain way polished. But there's so much more to that. It's not only that.
Yeah, and like when I watched a few episodes, and there was like a thing when a person said like, "Yeah, I really hate women," and were like really bashing on women. Well, before the mirror putting on fake boobs and high heels and stuff like that, and I was like, I don't feel so very comfortable
No,
with
yeah.
that.
I can understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I think the show is more like about not to shit on the show. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's more about RuPaul's life, and it's called RuPaul's Drag Race. So he is going to show his vision of drag
Yeah.
in that, and it just happens to be the most known right now, but doesn't mean that's all that there is.
No.
It's just his view on it.
All right.
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. Anyone want to say anything more on that point, or?
Now, I think sometimes when I'm speaking about the things I'm busy with, they sometimes put it in to call me a tree hugger.
Oh,
Do you
okay.
know this thing? Like,
Yeah.
oh, you're a tree hugger.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, yeah, I sometimes hug trees, but
And what of
it's
it?
not that that's the only thing I can do. Or oh, you do yoga all the time. So or you're vegan. Like all these names on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that could almost be a bit dismissive, or it's labeling you as one thing when actually this is the issue with labels again, isn't
Yeah.
it? Where we're just defined by one label and then that cuts out all the rest. And I mean, we could probably have a whole other panel on that alone, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I feel like each of you are in some sort of collective. And I was wondering if you wanted to speak a bit more on that and maybe how it shapes like your art and your activism.
Yeah, I can go first
Yeah,
if you guys want. Yeah, I'm in a collective called the House of Consent. And basically we're a drag collective in Gent, organized by the queer community and for the queer community, but also for audiences abroad. And our goal is to create a safer space so that it's more accessible for people to come and enjoy our shows. We work, for example, with free contribution most of the time. And our second goal is just to show some alternative forms of gender expression, I would say, so that we hope that the audience gets a little bit more comfortable just by being exposed. Yeah, and yeah, we're just unapologetically sexual in our performances, and we own that, and we denounce shame in any way, and we talk about subjects that are close to our heart. Different performers talk about different stuff, of course, and yeah, that's kind of it.
And do you also entry places where people are not used to your group, your collective?
Yeah, I've had some shows in West Flanders, and
Oh.
the audience was just not used to us there. But I mean, I will not compromise my performances for that, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've had.
Did you
some.
get a good reaction or?
Mostly, yeah. I had some homophobic stuff, but I'm used to that. But yeah, people really like drag. They enjoy a good show. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited for October when
When we have more
Yeah,
shows.
yeah.
Me too. Yeah. Is any one of you in a collective? Right.
Yeah, what are we doing?
You're putting more girls on the stage and beside the stage.
Yeah.
We have museums, we are having a book club, we have a photography club, we have workshops, yeah, do stuff like that. And it's want to spread awareness on stage. And, yeah, helping communities, I think, as well, like the queer community in Ghent, and like organizing gigs for them. And, yeah,
Yeah.
so that's what we do.
So many collaborations and yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And mine is like very shortly, so it doesn't have that much activities, but it's called woekeren, woeker. It's a Dutch word for plants what grow on buildings, and they are like everywhere and growing over buildings and taking over. So that's what the word is. But yeah, we are connected to the Black Jacarot Foundation. This is a foundation who plants trees back in the Amazon in Brazil. So so we spend amount of money when we sell work. But we haven't done anything yet. But the idea is, if we sell work, that a small amount goes to this foundation. But it's not so big developed as yours with activities and really opinions. But yeah,
No, it's
That's
a really
cool.
nice idea. Yeah. So the place where we're filming is in Kunsthal, and we're sitting underneath this piece by Jessie Jones, which is a big, long, I don't know how many meters curtain. It's a picture of Sylvia Federici's hand. She's a writer and a feminist activist. And they have a contract with Kunsthal whereby they reserve this space for small activist groups to come and do whatever, have a reading group, film something, which I think is a really good example of where art and activism can collide, because I suppose they're sort of critiquing the fact that people on the margins often don't have space within art institutions, and then also making a change in the fact that we can be here now. And so this leads me to wonder, do we feel there are enough spaces where activists can meet, or can meet mentally even, meet emotionally, and maybe how can we better this? I don't know if anyone has any ideas.
I think those spaces always exist from the bottom up. Like, there will never be an how do you say it? An institution who would do like, yeah, here is a museum and now this is our activism room.
Yeah.
It's like, it's always have to come bottom up. So that's why it's kind of hard to say, like, are there a lot of spaces in Ghent? Because, yeah, they are, but you have to find them and you have to make them, and you have to be with alone or with a group of people and say, like, I think this is very wrong. I'm with friends, or I'm all alone, and will claim this space and this and that. It's not only. I think those spaces, like mentally spaces, come from your own willing of, I wanna do things better. I wanna make something happen. I wanna fight something. So I think in Ghent there is a lot of people who are creative, or politically, or I don't know what. And I think the city of Ghent also allows a lot of places to be used. But I think Ghent is a good city if you want to start with ideas. There's a lot of people who think in the same way, and when the bars were open, you could connect to each other. And so I think there's a place here that you can do it. Because also there are a lot of students, a lot of young people, and I don't know. I always found it easy here to get in groups and getting to know each other and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah.
I agree, but I do think those spaces are sometimes closed off from different
you have to find
groups.
them.
You really do have to find them.
Yeah.
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 to be active looking for it. Because I think I can say no to your question. Like, I would like to have more of places where I can meet other environmental artists or people, or like that you connected with, I don't know, architecture or another place where the art and can meet other institutions or other collectives. I think I wasn't active enough with searching for it. That could be like, you have to have your own focus and be aware of, hey, maybe I want something. I'm going to search, and then it's happening. But now I'm a bit overwhelmed with my own art world and the institution where I'm already in. So I didn't know that this was I have already been to this exhibition, but I didn't know that this was that it was meant to have a conversation with activists and feminist people. I didn't know.
So now you know.
Now I know. Now.
Get in touch with Kunsthal. See if you can host your own event, and then you can do it for environmental activists, and voila.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. If you don't hear about it, then you don't know. And now Kunsthal is going to have loads of activists getting in touch. But I suppose we're sort of coming to the end of the panel. So I don't know if anyone has any other questions they want to ask, or anything want to ask of each other or want to talk about.
The thing is, like, when you said you don't shout in your art or you're like a tree hugger, I would say it is more like a soft kind of activism.
Yeah.
And I think it's not quite in your face, but also it's more respected by other people because it's not aggressively that you say it. I don't know what I wanted to ask anymore, but I think I pretty like the soft kind of way of activism. And I think when I see an artwork or a piece like that, it would stick more in my head than just being shouting and aggressively and stuff like that. So I think that's a very nice way to give a message to people, and cool.
Yeah, I agree. I think both can be very effective.
Yeah, it's a different way of reaching people, I guess.
Yeah. And both can exist next to each other, and one is just as valid as the other.
Yeah, for sure. And support each other. Kind of. And I suppose for like closing words, is there anything that any of you want to promote? Anything that's like coming up?
You've got I can promote something. On the 18th of June, I'm going to have an exhibition with the Textile department of masters from Luca School of Arts, and it will be in Ronse. And I think you can check my Instagram, Wieneke Bremer. So that's what what's coming up.
Amazing.
Nice.
Yeah. And Rinka, anything you wanna?
No.
What about your workshops that you're doing? Do you want to talk about that?
It's gonna be in October or something.
Oh, right, yeah.
But there are gonna be Zen Workshops, 10 om te zien, where I will have a series of 10 workshops, starting from an idea, and we're gonna end with some zines that we wanna distribute or ask to little small printing shops to sell them. So it's not gonna be like being creative, but like from start to end product.
Amazing.
So we're gonna silk screen, we're gonna use woodcuts, we're gonna use poetry, we're gonna use stuff like that.
So exciting. And Krishna?
We have some shows coming up, but that's still a secret. But I'm going to shamelessly plug every one of our drag performers. So follow at AUS without an E on Instagram, Krasna Drag, me, Bo Butler Drag, Valenciaga Drag, Moonshine Galore Drag, and Nasty Lil Marty. And follow us all so you can be on top of it and you know when we do what. Yeah. You better follow.
Definitely. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I really enjoyed that. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks to Aline, Fleur, and Lucas, and Danielle at Kunsthal. And cheers.